You remember yesterday we did happy facing just before we left? That was fun, eh? Do you know why you snapped out of this? There's a reason why we softly went out of this complete bliss and happiness. And I'm going to talk of these reasons, okay? So breathe and remember, just yesterday, happiness, today, a bit of smiles. Don't push too hard, but just get into this again. We're going to speak of the reasons why we stop being like this. Yesterday evening, Simon decided to do fixity. He told me this morning that he had set himself an objective to do 15 minutes of fixity. So fix a point and be immobile and wait. Clear mind. And at a point, his face started to itch because he was in the bath and the water in his face started to itch. He just like, oh damn, I can't do it. And he looked, and he had only 1 minute left. And he said, and I failed my 15-minute experience. I only 1 minute left. I said, what is this bullcrap you just said? You succeeded 14 minutes. And what type of system do you endorse? When I told you yesterday, time is a system we made, but don't stay enslaved to it. So he set himself, this is accurate?
Yeah.
As of net?
Totally.
Yeah, okay. So he set himself an objective to attain in an expectation, hoping to get there, false hope, in a control ego trip. Playing the victim of not succeeding that, feeling the guilt he imposed on himself because of pride. You got your ego mind trap here. He used the illusion to produce an entire ego trip instead of just sitting there and doing fixity as long as he would, then saying, good, I'm done. Regardless of the trap of setting himself a name. So sometimes we do stuff when we set ourselves objectives to attain. So that, because if we don't set ourselves objectives, we won't have the will to go. So instead of developing willpower, we develop guilt power. I'm going to be guilty if I don't attain. You get this? Find a moment in your life that you did this. Try to remember. Okay? Breathe.
That I felt guilt.
That you just set yourself an objective you didn't attain, and because of that there was guilt. Something that you just wanted to achieve and didn't work. It can be just something you didn't deliver at work and on time, and your boss set you an objective that you endorsed because you work for him, so he has power over you and you accept that. And you didn't deliver, you felt guilt. Whether it's your objective or someone else's. There are these moments. Just say, how much pressure do you put on yourself? You see that? So I was sitting at the restaurant and asked, what time is it? They say it's 10 to 9, we should go. I said, no, I'm getting at 9:05 on purpose because I'm setting up an experience. So, and she just snaps into a state of control. Bang! But we won't be there in time. They'll be waiting at the door, all chilly, and she just starts to get in a state of, we can't. I say, aren't you supposed to just let go and let me teach any way I want? I have the right to do this. You want me to teach you stuff. It's not like if I was with some people who had objectives to me that are not my students and they didn't ask me to give them lessons, so I don't play with their minds. And I'd be there 10 minutes before just in case. But now my aim is, you tell me, what can I do to be more happy? And I'm telling you, words won't suffice. I have to provoke experiences. And some of the people got here at 9:05. They didn't wait. The only one that were in anxiety was her instead of control and expectation. But everything went fine. And Simon was just he said to himself, this is completely disrespectful. To ask people to be there at 9, and you're not there at 9:05. And everyone, there were 4 people just in their not understanding of how much they were enslaved in this ego trip. Of course I respect people that need to be on time, but not when they're my students. I do whatever I want. It's not like if I was punching you in the face saying, look how much control you want. No. I'm just playing games. So some of you, like her, so you are late. You'll learn something. It's a nice phrase I got from the Lords of the Ring. A mage is never late or before, is exactly at the moment he wants to get. And Curry was all in state of control because Simon needs batteries for his camera. So he said, well, if you're late, and we also need to take even more time to go get the batteries and stuff, there's a reason why I arrived at 9:05. Because I went with Simon to get the batteries. It's done. Okay? So you just have to let it go. Everything happened perfect. What did you say?
A reason or an excuse?
Now we just have
But I like that. I'm going to use this to teach. A reason or an excuse. It's a legitimate, funny question. It's both if you believe in the ego, and it's neither when you believe in faith. It's just how it happened. The Buddha, when in the scriptures they write about the Buddha Sakyamuni, they say the Buddha. But when someone in person was addressing the Buddha, they called him Tathagata. The thus comes one. He just comes as it is. And how is that? We don't know. It just, the guy that just happens. With absolutely no way of knowing what happens. They called him the Tathagata. So they said, oh, Tathagata. The one that just comes as it is. It's very Zen, without definition. It's not a teacher that comes. It's not enlightened. It's not the lover, the spouse, the friend. It's just something happened. Because it was all about letting go of definitions. Okay? So we just played. It was fun. Okay? So look inside here. Whatever you got, because for everyone differently have their own reason of being in this state of control of time. Look at your own reasons. You can get your map out, you can just do it in your mind. What emotion does it hide? And just sit there. I'm teaching you how to free yourself from the slavery of time. This is what I'm doing right now. Okay? So sit there and look at the chains while they dissolve. And you're going to feel the effect of the acid on them. It's not going to be fun. But it's going to dissolve, the chains. This provokes so many intestinal pain to so many people and digestive problems. This is why it's here. So some of you guys are in guilt, some of you guys are in abandonment, feeling alone with this entire concept. You're finally getting it. It's good. I'm not taking this suffering from you, but I'm feeling with you. So I'm transmigrating in you, everyone at the same time, and I'm taking the deep breath. So it helps you guys do the integration. Basically, it would be, I'm helping you right now, take the time to do it. It'll be easier, like putting more fire in your wood instead of taking your wood, my fire. This is one of the reasons that we snap out of bliss. Suffer it once and be happy so many times more. Just suffer once and be happy so much afterwards. Each time this time enslavement reason would come back. Now you're going to see it active and say, oh no, this is just time enslavement. I'm going to get there when I'm going to get there. And if other people are in a state of control, you just accept that they just don't understand yet because they didn't get this kind of teaching. You have to accept that. Yeah?
I'm not sure if I'm doing this right because I don't feel any pain at all. I just feel
You're good?
happy because, like, oh, I want to be around town because I want everyone to love me. I don't want anyone to be upset with me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, I don't need that. I don't have it.
Yeah. But what you just said is expecting to be loved, seeking love outside,
Right.
okay, fear of being abandoned or rejected.
But it doesn't feel bad. It's just like, oh, I just observed it.
Yeah. You went there, you felt it, there was a rejection, but it was not pain because it's such a minute emotion compared to what you're used to feel. So you're starting to get the feeling that eventually you just get information about the ego, even in emotional states. Okay, so this is what you've just lived. This is because she's just newly awakened and she's starting to get, this is not painful at all. Yeah, exactly. But you have to understand it might be painful for some of that and to be in respect of that. Don't hit someone who's on the ground. You know. No? Because she's teaching. And sometimes she's joining us and say, there is no pain. Well, not for you. Okay? So if you see someone affected, you have to be compassionate. I'm just telling you this, not because you did it in the past, because you were going to do it soon. I'm just telling you now you get it. You're going to see you on the edge of doing it. Oh yeah, I get it.
I
Don't.
wanted to make sure I was doing it right.
Good. And I use this opportunity to teach you something else.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You know, some of the techniques that I have learned is, you know, what's the feeling, what it feels like rejection, what was the first time that I felt rejected? You know, I look for it to see where I made that decision.
You can go back in the past.
And in the way I'm hearing you say it, it feels like, oh, okay, so I can just deal with this feeling of rejection because it has been repeated because I didn't deal with the first time.
Now, if you remember yesterday, I said you're going to go through your entire life story and reprocess everything that wasn't processed.
Okay.
But start practicing with now.
Okay.
And it's easy. And sometimes you integrate something now, it will disappear from your entire life track. Some things you will integrate now, it will not disappear because it's too cemented.
Okay.
Like the core teachings, someone has been beaten a lot when they were a child. This kind of stuff sticks there in the body. So you have more integration to do. But let's say your karma was to ask for a gun to someone and they just didn't want to give it to you and it happened for you 100 times. That's minute. That's minor. Okay. Just integrate once and say, okay, it was never mine. So, anyway. So, if you feel good right now, if you feel like crap, whatever the state you are, happy facing. And your mind says, I'm feeling like crap, I don't want to do happy facing. Force it on you. Take control. I am so happy. We are happy and we are in states of joy. In your, whatever the state of drama you have, just push it in there, okay? Because there's one thing you can learn with this, is that you could stay in a state of happiness regardless of the pain your ego is suffering. You can be in both at the same time. Just put your attention on suffering when there is. Don't flee in sustained happiness by will. But after each integration, your ego will just want to sink there and stay in drama. Just look at yourself. You want to stay in drama. You say, okay, I'm just used. You only have to practice snapping out of drama after an integration. If there's more to integrate, you'll go back. Sometimes you have a full hour of attention span to focus and just be in this. I'm going to take, for example, you. You decided to address core emotions in your life. You're going to have new processing to do with that. Okay? But now you can be happy. So I gave you examples this morning using time. And I needed something about time, and he came with his time thing from yesterday. So I could softly introduce it. You know? So you see that speaking about time yesterday was not enough to get you to be free about it. You needed an experience to see, yes, I want to be free of this concept of time and use it to be efficient. Respect others that are enslaved to it, but be free as I was born with no time chains. I was born empty-handed and there was no watch on my wrist and no calendar on my okay? Basically, we are born immortal. Okay? We just mortalize along the way. Sorry, I'm in a state of bliss already. Focus. Sometimes emotions are painful, sometimes they're just information. Still, be considerate with your emotions. They are there. Okay? So you can't really say that I was late. You can say that I was here at 9:05. And you can say this about everything. Everyone you watch, you say, you're late.
But I didn't say you said.
Yeah, I was playing with your minds. I love that. And Simon said, this is scary. Like, you'll never know when he's going to pop one on you. Well, I'm not doing evil stuff. I'm just happening here and there on a certain time. It's easy. I'm not going to force you to go into states of suffering because you've got your life to do this. You're going to take care of yourself. Your soul is going to push experiences on you anyway. So you've got these small experiences that come. We call them the ants. The ant level experience. They're so small you just don't take care of them. You don't see them. So you didn't care of the ants' size experiences that were thrown at you. Didn't integrate them, didn't watch your ego. So now you see a hare, a rabbit, a dog. You see a lot, small. But you find them cute anyway. So now a horse crosses your living room. Ah, whoa, what the hell was that? If you ignore that, next time it's a bulldozer. It's going to destroy you. Okay? Each time you ignore an experience that you should take care to integrate, it's going to just come back bigger, come back bigger, come back bigger, until you look at it, and if you still ignore it, it crushes on you, you start a 10-year depression. You've been through this. Some of you experienced stuff like that. Like 1 year of intense pain, physical, or 1 year of great sadness, and stuff like that. You've been through this. You simply did not know what to do with these things. No one ever taught you. So we're here to address these things. This is why if you go back in your past, and don't become obsessed with this, okay? You just, once in a while you take one and you decide to play. Say, I know it's going to be a suffering, but I'm going to be the equivalent of suffering I do. I'm going to be more happy forever. So it's really worth it, because the small amount of suffering to produce years and years and years and years and years of happiness of this, I mean, it's so worth it.
So once we start integrating the same memory, if I go back and check on it, it would no longer produce the feelings of sadness? Because if I right now, if I go to a place, you know...
If more comes up, it means you've got more. If you just say, if you get to the point of compassion, I understand. He left. It's okay. I understand why he left. And instead of compassion, I understand now that he could not handle because of his ego and stuff. I have to be in forgiveness in that. You have to get to the point of forgiveness of others and compassionate and understand that they also have these experiences, the others, that they just can't handle. You know? And know that you are in charge of your life and others are just enslaved to their systems. So if anyone would be conscious of their actions, they will do it. Or they would do it consciously and they would usually produce happiness. Okay? So being angry at someone, you just have to understand that you've been there. And if it's not in this lifetime, you've been there before. Okay? So if reincarnation exists, if it doesn't exist, well, other humans has been there, that you can tap into their experience. Okay? So you've got these emotions that come. If you purify your past, you will release the requirement of your soul to reproduce them. If you see more come, integrate the small waves that come at you. Your soul will not require to produce big waves to crush onto. What does death teach you? Death teaches you you own nothing, you own no one, and that you have no identity, and consciousness simply flows, and everything is impermanent. You can try to write this down, but there's about a list of 100. Okay, but the basic is no property, relationships that are not permanent, everything is temporary. This is the great basics. So, if you integrate that before death happens, you release from yourself the need to die. You're going to go through death anyway. No suffering. It'll be out of free will. You'll say, I'm done. I just want to go to the next experience. So you'll, from the appearance of others, it'll look the same. But you won't come back. You won't have to go through the birth and death. So this Buddhist disciple goes to the master just to pay his respect. And the master says, can I help you? And the disciple, just happy that he doesn't need any help, he says, I come and go empty-handed. I'm okay. That was the way of saying that he is born with nothing, and then when he dies, he goes with nothing, and he has no attachments to nothing. And he's happy in that. So, I come and go empty-handed. So the master says, nice, now I can teach you how to stop coming and going. It's so fun to know that you got a perspective to think that you could actually be free of any possible impairment of the ego and use your ego. You're not going to dissolve your ego. What your ego fears is that if you dissolve your identity, the ego will disappear. No. Ego becomes powerful. You just doesn't know yet. I still have an ego, or else I could not teach you. It's just that the ego is not in control. The ego gives me information about each of the planes where he exists. Sending me physical information. I want to copulate this, I want to puke that, I want to eat this. Vital body sends me information. I feel alive, I want more energy, I feel tired. Emotional, I yearn for affection. I want to be touched. I feel abandoned. Mind, intellect, sends me information. That seems to be so cool. Let's try it. Oh, I'm afraid to go in the roller coaster. I might be out of control. Information. I'm right, he's wrong. It comes. Wisdom body sends me information. I'm experiencing that. I desire to experience this. I'd like to try out chili con carne, say, for the experience of it, and not because it tastes good from my mind. Just, experience level of stuff. Soul. I'm conscious of the experience of my soul speaking to me. That's also a part of the ego, but very refined, very elevated. Soul saying new ways of experiences. Remembering relationships between soul groups and all the experiences of what comes and goes into life. And consciousness is out of the ego. Consciousness is what produced the ego. It's so nice to know that your ego is the fruit of God. And in this conscious state, you can be God and still exist in every plane. Which is very different than the Buddhist path, that consists in dissolving the self until there is nothing. They enlighten, they go into void for eternity, sitting still. Those who do this, the Buddha scolded them. The Buddha scolded them. Someone goes to the Buddha, is there a self? And the Buddha says, no. Don't conceive in your mind anything that could be such a thing as the Atma. This thing that you conceive of the self, it does not exist. So, later on, most of the Buddhist monks, instead of not conceiving what the self is, they start conceiving that there is no self. And then someone goes to the Buddha, so there is no self. No, do not conceive that there is no self. You won't be able to get there, to be conscious of the self. But whatever you conceive of the self also prevents you to go to the experience of the truth of what is a self. Because it's not through mental conditioning that you could understand what is beyond the mind. So don't have any conceptions of what it is to be the self. Breathe, look inwards, and exist there. Be there. So the Buddha never said there was no self. But those who got this teaching, they said, there is no self. Even though he explained, there is no self, there is no non-self, there is no such thing as a self. For if you could conceive what it is, it would not be that. So just let go. It's very zen. It's hard to understand. But once you get the experience of the self, I experience something inside. Now the Buddha speaks to you of the self. Because when he uses the word self, it refers to an experience you really have. So you're not blocking it with your mind. This is very elevated stuff. It's hard to understand for the mind, but it makes sense a bit. And if I block with my mind the conception of what it is that is God, or Supreme Consciousness, or Christ, or Vishnu, or Buddha, my mind will block that. What?
You would like my experience of that?
Yeah, it'll block the experience of it. Because you'll say, I know. Your ego will say, I already know. I learned it. And the ego stays in control. I know that. Don't need more. Denying the experience of the self because of pride. Okay. So, oh, thank you, my Lord, for being so ignorant and vulnerable and weak. And then you get the experience of almightiness. Then you get the experience of power. Then you get the experience of wisdom of all things. Get to a point where you just watch something with no conceptions, and consciousness will reveal you the information about it. Get to the point where your mind only needs some information to keep track. Like, this is a bottle of water. But you don't know what water is. You only know what water feels when you throw it down on you or put it on your body. If you want to know what water is, you transmigrate in that and you stay there and you feel it. Without conceptions. Without imagining, okay, so I feel cold, I feel wavy. No, this is still your experience of water. Go into the water and wait for the experience to reveal itself. And you'll get to a point, I feel that like water. You get the wisdom. So everybody, pick up your bottle of water. Bottle or a keg or whatever. One sip. Now you're going to keep it like this, but not forcefully. Just relax. Keep it in your hands just to get the feeling. And look at it. Look at the part where there's water and don't care about the labeling and business and stuff. Pay attention to the water. Shake the bottle a bit, get this feeling, so that your ego can take whatever information it has of the fluidity and the coldness and the things. Now using what your ego has for information, when you're ready, go in there. And once in there, let go of your definition of what is water. And breathe. There's a feeling of being something yet you just didn't conceive before. That's it. Come back to yourselves. You were still aware of the human self, but you became aware of also, water is that. And there's a feeling, which is not necessarily the coldness, because the coldness is your human feeling of touching it. It's not liquid necessarily. Well, there is a bit. Because the liquid is what you perceive and what you feel of its impact. But if you would be at the depth of the ocean, you don't feel necessarily the flows in the same way. There's a flow. So there's something that we cannot really word, but it's conscious of being water. Did you all get this? Make sense? So you just practice. It doesn't matter. Okay? Practice. You first have to just get inside yourself and feel your emotions. And look at the basic masks. Just spot one. Okay, this is emotion and there's denial. Okay. And when you become agile, you put 2-3 components of the ego, and when you become very good at it, then you take 5 minutes to identify each aspect of the ego. This emotion, this denial, this tool, this role, this need, this expectation, this attachment. Okay? You just do it. Okay? In the order you want. Okay? As it comes. Not in a state of control. I'll first identify the denial. Then I will go to the emotion. Then don't control. Go in there and use tools, but let the information reveal itself. Oh, I feel so attached. Okay, it was more an attachment than a role of victim. Okay, so you play with that. Okay? It has its own challenges. But in time you'll get it. Okay, practice. Because this is the way to become aware. What the Buddha taught was simply sit there and watch yourself. And let your mind reveal itself. And he didn't put much information. He said you need a correct understanding so that your actions can be correct actions. And when you have correct actions, there will also be correct speech. In fact, it's the other way around. It said correct understanding, that what you say will be correct, then there will be correct actions, and from there will be correct livelihood, and goes on up to there is a good meditation. Okay? But he never explained from scratch what is correct understanding. He said, just fix your mind, observe, and eventually what is incorrect, inadequate understanding will just reveal it. You'll see it makes no sense. And he gave keys. Look at that. Look at attachments. Look at balance. Too thin, too poor, you're not happy. Too rich, too fat, you're not happy. Balance, you're happy. Comfortable. Okay? Feeling good now? Don't judge yourself. Oh yeah, you're starting to get energies of Kundalini. I told you yesterday, you just got these impulses of electricity in your body, you just can't manage. You're not used to it. Your body will get used to it. Massage a bit, do whatever. Just don't disturb others. Are you tired? Everybody is starting to gaze off. Yes, because we're going to do the third city. With the first city, we became aware of the most subtle energy. First city. Then, with the second city, we became aware of the immensity of what was created. Okay? Cities follow this order. Okay? So what is created is the 5 elements. The raw matter from which everything else stemmed. Everything is modulation of the combination of the 5 primary elements, which are not the physical water you just transmigrated in. Because before there was physical matter to become liquid, there was water, but it was not matter like this. It was a thought form of a very high level. It was consciousness of cohesion, of stuff that flows in consciousness, not in matter. Matter is an adaptation of a denser, it's just a denser representation of the higher thought concepts. So if you say, okay, now I know the elements. No, you don't. You have an idea on how to charge them, but when you charge them, you've got to contemplate, what is this element fire? Before there was something to burn, what could a fire been? And you'll get that. Fire is radiance, everything that waves. Light, heat, radiance, but not necessarily combustion. Combustion is the interaction of matter. Okay? Third city is the interaction of all these components, and it became stuff. So the third city, the word means, there's no exact word, but it is, I'm going to start to write it. Garima. Garima means something in between the different words that are heaviest, densest, most compact. Agglomeration, coming together. Gravity. Compacting forces. Garima, we'll say it means the heaviest and densest. Through anima, you become aware of the smallest, most minute, even though it's everywhere. You focus on here, so subtle. And once you get that, with mahima, just become aware of the immensity of that, and it's the five elements. You don't need to think of the five elements when you do mahima. You just need to know it's this immensity of conscious flow, conscious interaction of various modulation. That are the elements, but you don't need to focus on that. On garima, you start to go into the density of your body. Start with your body, okay? So you're just going to look at the most dense and tangible experience of your life and know that this is Christ. So you put your pens down when you're done. First thing first. Breathe. Simply put your attention on yourself and be aware that you are aware. Start with self-awareness and breathe. Become conscious of the most sensible, highest thought and consciousness, anima. 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 Touch the divine, highest elevated realms. And breathe. And from this you will expand in the greatness, mahima. 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 Immensity, galaxies of stars upon themselves. And this immense mass of powerful, intangible energy became creation by densifying itself. Garima. Garima. Pay attention to your physical body. Garima. This is Christ energy playing becoming matter, Christ's self, divine thought in the form of cells, components, proteins, blood, garima. 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 This body that you are, which is also God. Garima. Very spiritual, very physical at the same time. The densest of the matter that exists is Christ. The physical body, the emotions, the mind, everything that densified is Christ. It's heavenly, yet so present, even so much that it is available to your nervous system to feel your body through touch. Garima. 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 Every level of your experience is a densified experience of the highest divine self. Garima. Softly open your eyes and stay in this conscious state, but open your eyes and stand up softly without losing balance. With legs shoulder apart, knees bent just a bit, not too much, but just not locked back. You raise your arms and you settle them down softly, and you stay there. In your mind, Garima. Garima. Feel the density of God. Garima. In the chi body, you feel it. In the emotional body, you feel something. In the mental, you can conceive of it. In the physical, you can feel it. It is tangible. This is God. You've never been separated. You just didn't know. Garima. Now bring your hands into your heart. Gently, and gently, happy faces all over. Your cells are happy golden faces. Your emotions are flow of streams of golden happy emotions. Your mind is most beautiful knowledge of happiness. The wisdom is happiness. The soul is happiness. You are conscious. There was never anything else than variations of this most blissful happiness. Okay? Now sit comfortably. Now that you're all flabbergasted by the experience, I'm going to give you something to concentrate on. You'd like to just let me be for a moment? Yeah, I could. So, I'm going to give you teachings. When you practice the siddhis, you do the first one a lot. Okay, when you go home, just do the first one. To do the first one a lot. When you got practice with the first one, 20 minutes at a time, then you say, I'm going to practice the second one. So you do the first one to get in touch for a minute until you get to the feeling of that most elevated subtle energy. Then you use a second, and then you just do the second. So every time you want to practice a second siddhi a lot, You do the first for a minute to tune yourself into that. And you go into the second and do that, 20 minutes. But now I'm okay, now you got used to this first two, you're gonna do the third one. So you do the first city a minute, the second city a minute like we just did, and then you do the third one for 20 minutes. You get used to the third one. But in the end, after a lifetime of practice, you will have done a bit more anima than mahima, a bit more mahima than garima, a bit more of each before. I really appreciated your respect for others. And you still got the experience of it. Your body reacted a lot. It's normal. Give yourself time. You got the teaching. That's the most important thing. You got the energy initiation also. Then we do the first one. Then we'll be done with the seminar. But afterwards, there's the fifth. I told you that your ego was born from your spirit. With the fifth, you become conscious of how it goes. With the sixth, you're conscious of what is willpower, and you can start operating whatever you want. This is why they call them the siddhi, the powers. They seem to just be contemplation of blissful states. With the seventh siddhi, the will of God comes. So you start thinking stuff, and people behave according to what you wanted. If they are only animals, not humans, they'll just behave like you want. This is why you have to be careful not to ask anything. Just accept so that people can be free. This is why they say the siddhi can be dangerous, because at this point, at the seventh siddhi, whatever goes in your mind, whatever goes in your intellect, forces of nature will obey. If it's forces of nature, it's okay, because forces of nature are built to obey the will of God. With the seventh siddhi, you are the embodiment of the will of God. You think something, it works. So if another human is a human, even in the work drama and depression and drug addiction and all, but he's a human, he's a human. If it's only an animal obeying his impulse, he's going to start obeying. Okay? At the eighth siddhi, whatever you feel, they feel. So as you admire yourself as such a wonderful person, everybody starts to admire you. And you become a king. Everybody believes in your ultimate rulership. This is very dangerous. This is why at the eighth siddhi, what I did is I did not incarnate the state of I am so a wonderful being. I incarnated this is such a wonderful experience for all beings. So people in my presence, my siddhi, it works. You start to admire yourself as a beautiful person. It works. But most people, they do the siddhi, it's all about themselves. So people start to just bow to them. Okay? Vital siddhi, procreation and desires tap in. So some of them use a siddhi. There are two ninth siddhi, depending on what path you want. One of them is all your desires will come true. If you desire something, it comes true. With the siddhi, the ninth siddhi, someone, a saint, just watched one of his students, very beautiful woman, and started to think how much he would love to make love with her. And she was in his bed. He made love to her. Next day, goes out, bang, dies, lost bullet. It was not her free will. It was siddhi, God consciousness imposing that on nature. So he was a saint, but had the ego to, I'm such a wonderful person, God gives me everything. And there was not the state of, they are God, and they should have everything. It was, she's beautiful, I'm going to have sex with her, deprived her of her free will because she just got hypnotized. She went. She does not have lots of karma, she's got a whole lot of blessing for making love with her master. Master dies because of the ego in there. Don't worry, you won't get there until many years of practice. And you've got this teaching already that just be in check and not be in state of control. Okay? Because depriving someone of their ultimate free will to have sex with whoever they really want and not with who they don't want, this is like the ultimate offense. Remember the 98% of problems happen in desire? At the 10th level, you become the physical embodiment of what is divine at the top. So progressively your body stops to need food. Then you don't need water. Some people tried to play, they experimented. They got buried for 5 days to see if they did not need air. They came out of it and said, now I know I don't need air. So they are actually detached of everything because of so much abundance of resource to their physical body. Self just fills whatever they need. When there's abundance of resource, they don't need anything outside. They don't need to work. They don't need shelter. They just have to walk. They don't even need to sleep. Just go around and they're completely sustained by self, physically. By putting all their energy in there, they don't have other powers such as hating people to be happy, alleviating suffering, or doing other stuff, but they don't need anything. For their experience, they are the pure embodiment of being a God. These are the people we call the immortals. Most Taoists, this is what they do. When I give the immortality seminar, I teach the Taoist way. The way and its power. So you're starting to grasp how this consciousness just flows by all the transmigration and stuff. It's a bit too hot. Is it a bit too hot? Okay. Thank you, Brian. So that was an introduction just to keep your mind active so you did not want to transcend because of what we just did. Even though it was Garima, very dense in the body, we still wanted to transcend. We all reacted in some ways. All right? Okay. Basically what we did, Anima, first city, concerns becoming aware of the source, the highest pure thought, which is the most subtle and undefined and subtle and minute fluctuation of thought, because God just a little wave and wham, everything wishes. And then Mahima, the greatness of all things, which is created. Then you really are Christ when you become fully aware of Mahima. This is great. Oh, Mahima means greatest, the same way as Maha means big. Okay, just wording. Then Garima. Garima is not necessarily the interaction. Okay, interaction is the third, but Garima also is about how these elements here combined to become gross at every matter. Okay, so this is why Garima means heaviest, or densest, or most compact, because Garima is how this interaction of different elements compose everything else. So this is why you have to focus on your physical body. So this light that you get from Anima and the elements you get from Mahima will shower down through you up or down to your physical body, and your physical cells will fizzle. Psst. In no time, you start to feel that, you know, when Kundalini awakens and all stuff, you just, I feel it. I was paying attention. I elevated my mind to being one with God, and then I focused on my physical body. Boom! It just came in. Okay. Then we sustain life and we start to live longer. Buy yourself time. Do everything in your power to extend your life. If you say, I'm doing my Tai Chi or my Qigong on a train track, I should be happy and unaltered, but a train is coming. No, this is fear of being abandoned, losing life. And person dies. Wasn't useful. Okay, don't be in a hurry to discover oneness with the train. There will be rejection of it anyway. So don't be in a state of control thinking that you're fine when something is coming at you. Be compassionate with yourself. Step back, let the train go, and find yourself a nice patch of grass to practice your Qigong. Okay, that's a gross, stupid stupid example, but you're doing stuff like that all the time. Just don't get yourself in trouble. And people understand stuff about themselves, right? So Garima, oh, and by the way, created is very elevated, and interaction is where it decided to start pouring down and make everything else. So, and this is how, at the interaction for the Egyptian, it's Isis, Mother Nature. Okay? Or for the Hebrew, it's Yahweh, Yod, He, Vav, He, which is the male that interacts with the female energies that produce everything. This is why in the Christianity, it is the Holy Ghost that gives you the power to heal. It is the Holy Spirit that flows through you. This is the energy that comes down. This is where the elements, originally here, are capable of interaction. It's not necessarily the interaction between them, it's the interaction. This is how you get in touch with God. You start with this Holy Ghost. This is how Shiva does the transformation. Right? But it is the interaction of that. This never existed, really. This is just a way to tell you, this is everything that you ignored, you never left that in oneness. Okay? Together. This is philosophy. Can't You imagine that you are not one. So basically, you don't attain enlightenment at all. You just stop training yourself to be non-enlightened. Okay? Don't attain enlightenment. Simply stop attaining non-enlightenment. And I will say, I'll eventually write a Zen book. Simple Zen Buddhism to stop attaining non-enlightenment. Okay? It just makes sense. So don't try to be happy so much as you try to stop producing the cause of unhappiness. And usually the unhappiness comes through misunderstanding of the truth, believing in the drama, denial of the purpose of this entire evolutive process. Right? That was a bit of intellectual theory, wasn't it? Who needs a break? 5 minutes.